Sandy says read, and welcome to the channel. Today we are going to do a review and discussion of Dragon's Blood by Jane Yolen. It is book 4 in the Pit Dragon Chronicles series. About a year ago, we did a review and discussion of the Pit Dragon trilogy. We go get the glare off of it here on the channel. This one was a long time coming. I did the review of these 3 stories together, these 3 novels together. And then I discovered, I learned, I figured out that there was a 4th book. There was a 4th book published, and I wanted to find it. I did find it. And you guys, the version that I got used to be a library book. I think that is just kind of cool and fun. You know, if you look at the back of this thing, it has, it has the little envelope, the little sleeve in it where people could put their little library, well, not the card, but the little slip that told you when to return the book to the library. It just makes me happy. I like that. Anyway, we're going to discuss this book today as part of our Dragon Reading Challenge here on the Sandy Says Read channel. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the book a lot. I am going to remove this little dragon thing from my finger because it is slipping and sliding and it's probably not going to stay on very well. So we're going to get rid of that. Okay, let's dive into this. Let me give you the specs. Oh, the specs are Dragon's Heart by Jane Yolen. This is book 4 in the Pit Dragon Chronicles. This one is published in 2009 by Houghton Mifflin Harcourt Publishing Company. It is 387 pages. It is written in third-person point of view, past tense. There is no back cover on my copy. As I mentioned, it was a former library book, so, that dust jacket is gone. All right, so let me read for you the back cover copy that I copied down off of the Amazon page. Right, Oster 4 isn't the planet it once was. And when Jaqen and Aki finally return to the Dragon Nursery, their homecoming arouses mixed emotions. Together, they've survived the insurmountable, and now they can weather the brutal conditions of Dark After and communicate with the dragons they love. But with the knowledge comes responsibility. What they've learned about survival could transform the platform. The platform? Maybe I was supposed to write down the word planet. What they've learned about survival could transform the planet, or if entrusted to the wrong hands, could bring about its destruction. Aki's insistence that she return to the rock to finish her training and begin new experiments drives a chasm between her and Jaqen. Suddenly, she finds herself in the midst of a political battle that could claim her life. Only Jaqen can save her. I mean, that word suddenly is going to come up again as we do this review. Trust me. All right, number 2, page 2 is the Sandy synopsis. Let me give you my synopsis of this story. I wrote down here 16-year-old Jaqen and 17-year-old Aki. They have escaped those cave-dwelling trogs that we met in book 3 of the trilogy. They've escaped those trogs. They've rescued a female dragon named Oracle, who was being held by the trogs. They've rescued the little tiny hatchling that was in that cave system too. And they've done this. They've gotten out of that system. They've gone over a waterfall. They've gotten away from the baddies of book 3 in time to be rescued by Senator Golden. There was a character named Golden, and he is a senator now after, Jaqen and Aki have been basically gone for a year. That 3rd book takes them about a year. They've been away for a year. And during that year, this guy Golden has become a senator on Ostar 4. He brings his helicopter. He discovers them. He picks them up. He brings them back to Sar Khan's nursery. And that's where we pick up in this 4th book. That's where we pick up in this book. We get back to the nursery. We have Oracle, this dragon that we helped save. She comes to the nursery too. She flies to the nursery. The little tiny hatchling dragon is with Jaqen and Aki, and it is bonding to Aki. It is, this little hatchling dragon is seeing her as sort of a mother figure. It's replacing the absent mother with Jackie. So they return to Sarkhan's nursery, where we learn the bond situation is over. The in the first 3 books, it was very much understood that there is a master and bonder relationship going on Ostar 4. That relationship is over. The people who had been in bondage to the masters are now released from that. They are free. Now, they do still work for a living. There are still people who own nurseries and own shops and own whatever. And so the people who were in bondage to them now can work for them and get paid for that and still make their way in the world. So that's going on. Oh, let's see. The nursery that we returned to, there is a fellow there named Lycarn. And Lycarn was a not so likable character in those first 3 novels. The first 2 novels mostly is where we saw him. He is now the master of Sarkhan's nursery. He is now the master of that. He's the one who was left in charge when Sarkhan died. Aki, she gets back to this nursery and she wants to understand the mysteries of how this like blood bond happens with the dragons. She and Jaqen now have an ability to communicate with these dragons, right? She and Jaqen can telepathically communicate with the dragons. In the 3rd novel, it's called A Sending of Dragons, because they can send their thoughts, they can send communications, they can send visions and colors and emotions back and forth with the dragons and back and forth with one another. And by doing this, or I guess by having experienced the blood of the dragons, they are able to do this. Okay, and Aki would like to figure that out and figure out how they could perhaps make a synthetic blood of the dragons so that other people can have this experience too, so that other people can survive in ways that now Jaqen and Aki can survive, and can communicate in ways that Jaqen and Aki can now communicate, but without harming any of the dragons. Aki would like to find a way for the other people on this planet to do this without hurting the dragons. Okay, the goal is to not hurt the dragons. Okay, but let's see, Jaqen and Aki, they kind of they totally disagree on how quickly Aki needs to do this. They disagree on how she needs to do this. I mean, if we remember from the first couple of books, she is a healer. She was learning to be a doctor. She had a doctor mentor named Dr. Henke, and Dr. Henke was basically teaching her. She was an apprentice to Dr. Henke. Well, Aki would like to return to that. She would like to go back to the rock, find someone who could be her mentor again, find a lab where she could work again and learn about this blood fusion that happens with the dragons so that she can help the dragons, etc. Jaqen doesn't think she needs to do that, certainly doesn't need to do it right away. They need to take a beat, think about this, figure out their game plan. One morning when Jaqen is at that old oasis playing with the 5 yearling dragons who are the offspring of Heart's Blood, Aki gets in a truck and drives off to the rock with someone. A fellow comes to the nursery and has a truck and is able to take her back, and does. So off she goes. And it just felt rather sudden that she made that decision to go, but she does. So she's gone. And Jaqen doesn't realize that she's gone until when he comes back to the nursery that evening and she's gone. She's just not around anymore. And that's a little bit surprising to him. And he's a little upset by that. And he does want to get her back. He does want to retrieve her, bring her back to the nursery. There's more plot development that goes on with that. And we also have in this book a drac hunt. Remember, there are these creatures called dracs that will eat baby dragons and dragon eggs. They are a problem. They are vicious. They are strong. They are poisonous. And yeah, you want to hunt them. If you have them near your nursery, you want to hunt them down and get rid of them before they infiltrate your nursery and basically devastate it. So there is that. We have a couple of deaths of characters in this novel that remind us that Ostar 4 is not a very hospitable planet. It's not a great, fabulous place to be. We have characters who are duplicitous. We have characters who you think maybe they're spies. You have some characters who, you start to get a better appreciation for, and some characters who you should not be getting an appreciation for. It's just, There's a lot going on in this book. There's political intrigue in this book, and yet the political intrigue isn't boring. I mean, there's politics, and Senator Golden has to run for re-election in this book, and yet the debate stage is not a boring thing. So it's well done. I liked it. It moved along nicely. That was good. Now, having said all that, having given you the synopsis, I was careful there not to give away any spoilers, and I'm not going to give any spoilers. I'm going to be careful as we talk about it, as we go through it, as we look at our characters, as I give you a little bit of reading in here. I'm not going to give you any spoilers. I'm going to be careful because I want to recommend it. I mean, the first 3 books, we talked at length about them here on the channel, and I will put a link to that in the drop-down box below so that you can see that video. It's like an hour long because we go over all 3 of the books. Having said that, if you watch that video, you're going to get an awful lot of spoilers there for those 3. But this 4th book, it came out, what did we say, hold please. Yeah, it was published in 2009. So it did, it took a hot minute for that one to come out. And I don't know, if you had not known that there was a 4th book in the series, if you hadn't known about that, I don't want to ruin everything that happens in here for you. I don't want to give the spoilers. I want you to have a chance to be surprised by some of the things that happen. So let's dive in and talk a little bit about the characters and some things that are happening here. I totally dig the dragons, as I usually do. The dragons were fancy and cool. The 5 main dragons in the story are the 5 offspring of Heart's Blood. She was Jaqen's first dragon that he trained, that he took care of and brought up, and she was his champion. And she had her clutch of eggs, and those 5 that hatched. There is Sargon, Sasha, and then the triplets. And those 5 dragons, have grown with him. That for that year that he was in the wilderness, he and Aki, they had those 5 dragons with them, and they did that whole sending of visions and communication with those 5 dragons during that year. So they do understand each other very well. In this book, in this 4th book, we get to see those dragons like maturing a little bit more, not a lot more. Sargon is still very self-centered and very much concerned about what Sargon wants, but he's still a good dragon. He's still precocious and a good dragon. Let's talk about our characters other than our dragons. Our characters are Jaqen. He is 16 years old. There's Aki. She is 17 years old. Although there are moments when Aki, she feels and acts and speaks like a much older person. I think that her medical training, her experience in life, what she has been through in the past, and then this past year out in the wilderness, she is just a much more mature individual than Jaqen is. Even though Jaqen has had all that experience with taking care of a dragon, teaching and training that dragon, and then having that year out in the wilderness trying to surviving, he still has moments where he just feels like a younger character, and he is certainly not as mature as Aki is. Yet they do, I mean, they're bonded. They are a pair, and I see how they are a pair. Yet she does feel like a much more mature character than he is. And then there's Karina, the cook. You guys, Karina, bless her heart. We're going to talk for a minute about her. So let's talk about these other characters first. There's Lycarn, who is the character who we did not trust and did not like in the first 2 books. We didn't really get to see him in the 3rd book because we were out in the wilderness with Jaqen and Aki. But he was a bonded character at the nursery. He is now the master of the nursery because when Sargon died, Lycarn took over. He was the one with the most seniority there, and he took over. He is not as cruel as we remember him being. It's like he has aged and matured while we were gone. Okay, so he's not as cruel as we remember. There is a character named Erikin. He has a lot of mood swings. He was in the first 2 books. He was one of the Bond boys alongside Jaqen. He was always a bit, I want to say, weaselly but maybe that's not the right word, mealy-mouthed, maybe that's the right word. He was always like, he looked up to Jaqen as his superior. He treated Jaqen as if Jaqen was his master instead of his equal. And there's a point in the book where Lycaon says to Jaqen that Arakin just needs someone to be a strong leader. He needs someone to follow. And if you can be that strong leader, Arakin will follow you. He will be your friend. He will be, subservient to you, subordinate to you, but he will be your friend in that. It's just kind of, it's a shame that Arakin needed someone to lord over him, but he did. That's what he needed. Then there's a character named Senator Golden, which we mentioned him. He was not a senator in the first book, but he was like running for the office, I guess. But in the third book, The Sending of Dragons, while we were off in the wilderness, he became a senator and somewhat powerful, right? And he would like to remain a senator. So in this book, he is running for office again. He's running to remain in office. We have Dr. Henke. She is the one who was a mentor to Aki in the past, and she and Golden, they are set up in-house together in this book. She and Golden have kind of gotten together. In the past, she was distrustful of Golden. She understood that he was out for himself and he would manipulate people to get what he wanted. He still manipulates people to get what he wants, but she's in on it now. She wants to be his partner in life, so she is assisting him. And if that means manipulating some people, then she's going to manipulate some people. Then we have a character named Jay Dark. I'm not going to tell too much about him other than he's an antagonist. He's not our protagonist in this novel. Okay, he's not a nice guy, but he is one of the 4 people running for Senate. He is one of those who's on the debate stage the night of the debate. Let's now talk about Karina again. She's one of our characters. She is the cook. She is a motherly figure at the nursery. And this is the dragon nursery that we're talking about, just in case anyone didn't see the first video. This is a dragon nursery that we're talking about, where these bond boys who are no longer in bond, they are now free, but they work at the nursery. I mean, what else were they going to do? So they're working at the nursery. They're taking care of the dragons. They're helping the hen dragons take care of their young. It's a lifestyle they know and understand, and they know how to take care of these dragons. They know how to do this. So they're still at this nursery, and Karina is still this motherly figure there. She is the cook there. She knows how to take care of the bond boys, who are now just boys. They're just the kids who take care of things. And there are men there too, who take care of the dragons and take care of this nursery surroundings and the buildings and stuff. She is a heavy-set woman. We are constantly reminded that she is a heavy-set woman. It got to be weird how often we were reminded that she was a heavy gal. It was weird, you guys. We're going to go to page 295. Let me get there. Give me a second. Okay, page 295. There's a passage here that I'm going to read for you, because this passage will give you kind of a flavor for Jane's writing style, and it will give you this moment of what the heck, because we're reminded in this weird moment that Karina is fat. Okay, we have Jaqen has been captured by some trogs. Trogs have come out of the caves and they've captured him. It's a plot point. No big deal. All right. When he came to, besides a splitting headache, besides the bumps and bruises, he felt fine. If you can be fine upside down and carried on a pole by 4 subhumans going up a hill, if you can forget that your mouth tastes like fumets, that your stomach feels as if a dragon has rolled over it, fine if you aren't scared that everything you love is about to be slaughtered. At least the trogs were now huffing a bit and going slow. Jaqen wished he weighed as much as Karina to slow them down even further. Set me on the ground, he said aloud. Then tearing down the top section of his thought wall, he sent them a fiery scene of the pole burning, which then set all 4 of them alight. To his surprise, following a flurry of sendings to one another, they lowered him down. I wrote out to the side, WTH, because poor Karina, I mean, she's not there. She's not, like, this is not being said to her. She's not being, they're not insulting her to her face, but Jaqen is thinking, he wished he weighed as much as Karina to slow them down even further. And why is that necessary? Why do we keep bagging on poor Karina? I mean, throughout this book, throughout this novel, weird, just constant reminders of Karina's weight. And I don't understand why. It was just weird. I mean, okay, but just weird. This passage shows us a little bit about how, Jaqen is able to send his thoughts to these Trogs who have captured him. And he's able to send them this idea that if he sets this pole on fire, it will set them on fire. So they better set him down. Just, yeah. Nicely done. I mean, Jaqen's not stupid. He do what he needs to do. This reminder, the constant reminding of Karina's weight got to me because I have recently had an editor have me remove some reminders of a character's pointy teeth in a story. Like I wrote a novella for an anthology, and the novella has a fairy, and the fairy has pointy teeth. And there are 3 subsections in the novella, and in each subsection, I mean, it's partitioned, right? And each partition has repetitive things. It's a device, but in each partition, the fairy's teeth are mentioned. And the editor on the 3rd one was like, stop this. You're going to annoy the reader, reminding them about her pointy teeth. Like, oh, okay. I get it now. And I did fix it. I mean, I did fix it before I sent it back, to be published. I fixed it, and I get it now. I mean, he's absolutely right, because the constant reminders of Karina's weight were annoying to this reader. I'm not trying to be rude. I'm not trying to say, oh, this was an annoying book. It was not an annoying book. It's just that was happening. And I think maybe I was more sensitive to it because I had had that feedback from an editor for my story going to that thing. Maybe, or maybe it's just poor Karina. It just kept coming up and coming up. Okay. Let us move on away from the character talk, and let's talk a little bit about theme. I saw 2 spots where a theme was being presented, and I thought that was worth pointing out. Page 37, near the beginning. When Jaqen and Aki got back to the nursery, they wanted to be very careful not to keep sending thoughts to one another and seeming as if they were speaking to one another telepathically. They didn't want to draw attention to the fact they were doing that. They didn't want that to bring questions from the people at the nursery, questions they would have to try to answer. Okay, so Jaqen blanked his own mind as he passed the other hen dragons, careful not to roil them, careful not to get too friendly with them either. If they were suddenly too comfortable with him, the other nursery workers would notice and might wonder why. It was important that neither he nor Aki raise any sort of questions in their minds of the nursery folk. Questions would lead inevitably to answers, false answers, made-up stories, lies. And anyone, he warned himself, no matter how careful, can trip himself up over a lie. And I underlined that. I'm like, that's probably our theme right there, right? That's this whole book. Anyone, no matter how careful, can trip himself up over a lie. So we've got to be careful with these lies. I mean, like Golden, the Senator Golden, he tells an awful lot of lies. He's a manipulative person, so that's going to come into play. We've got this antagonist that I told you about, Jay Dark. His whole existence is a lie. I mean, there's lies that are going to trip up some of these characters. So I really liked that theme, that foreshadowing, that concept. Then let's go to page 52. I wrote also theme on page 52. Give me a minute to get there, guys. Okay. And I wrote in the margin, I sense a theme here. This is with, I mentioned to you that Erican, he needs to have someone whom he is subservient to, right? Oh, pulling his hand out from under slacks, Jaqen slammed it against his own chest, a gesture left over from the time he'd worn a bond bag. Everyone free? May be true, but hard to believe. He thought there's always been bonders and masters from the very beginning. Ostar was settled by jailers and prisoners. Then he bit his lower lip. Surely this is a good thing, being free. But something about the news bothered him. Not Erican's anger, not even Erican's heckled response. Erican had always ducked out of work when he could, and that was an old argument between them. However, Jackin wondered if his own unease had more to do with the fact that he'd had to win his own freedom with hard work. Bonders used to say, "I fill my bag myself." Did they anymore? Why would they, if somehow the hard work of filling a bag no longer mattered? He shook his head. He'd never thought about such things before. Of course, freedom for everyone was more important than how hard he had worked in the past. He was suddenly ashamed of having thought otherwise. Okay, so if you remember from those first 3 books, the Bond boys wore these bags, like a leather bag and in a strap around their necks, and they had to earn the coin to put in the bags, and when they had enough, they could buy their freedom from their masters. And it was a saying, like Jackin has just reminded us here, was saying, "I fill my bag myself." Like no one else is going to buy you out of bondage. You have to fill your bag yourself. And they took pride in that. They took pride in working hard, earning their coin, earning up enough coin to buy themselves out of bondage, and then having their own freedom and becoming a master themselves someday. There was pride in that. There was ownership in that. And Jackin did earn his way out of bondage. He did that with Heart's Blood. He took her to the oasis. He taught that dragon how to do all the things she needed to do. He took her to the rock, and she was a champion dragon, and he won money there, and he was able to buy himself out of bondage. He's very proud of that. He worked hard to do that. Erican, on the other hand, needs to be subservient to someone and did not work hard to get himself out of bondage. He was handed that. Okay, everyone is free now, and that is a good thing that everyone is free across the board, but Erican is having some trouble with it. I sensed a theme there. It was an interesting take. He didn't earn it. Let's move on in our notes to some of the suddenly happening plot points. Aki deciding to leave when she did and how she did felt a little sudden to me. And she did take the little hatchling with her when she left. This was, pretty early on in the book. And her deciding to take the little hatchling with her also felt sudden to me. It felt wrong. It felt like a betrayal. I was disappointed in Aki for leaving the way she did, for not seeking out Jackin and telling him, "Look, I am going to leave today. I am taking this little hatchling with me. See you, bye." I was disappointed in her for the way she did that. It was all just a little sudden. I mean, it moved the plot along. Things kept going. It moved the plot along. It got us to our next step in the story. It got us to the next set of characters in the story. I mean, things moved along. So I'm not complaining about that. I'm just saying it felt sudden, and I was disappointed in Aki about it. But Jackin deciding to go after her, that also felt a little sudden. And on page 182, we see that happen. Let's go to page 182. Okay. Jackin he's obviously upset about the fact that Aki has left. He's alone. Other things have happened. There's more going on than just this plot point. Okay. There's other stuff going in here. I'm not going to spoil everything, but he's disappointed, and he's with his dragons. He's with Sargon and Sasha and the triplets, and he's just kind of moping a little bit. Okay. Let's see. Once there, he dashed to the weir, then splashed across and headed to the oasis. There was hardly a sound. Not even the insects were awake. Overhead, the sky was a deep blue, shot through with ribbons of purple. It could be read as dangerous or exhilarating. Jackin sighed. The rest of the nursery folk would see only the danger, not the beauty. They didn't have dragon eyes. "Sargon," he called aloud when he was finally close to the oasis. "Sasha, we're going to find Aki. Now." He hoped they were still there, sending a tentacle of color in the red, the color of their shared blood. "Come, come." For a long moment he heard nothing. Cold crawled across his shoulders. The brilliant sky was still. And then they show up, the dragons do, and they're like, "Aki." We'll yell, "Aki, let's go find Aki." They're willing to go find Aki. The dragons, of course, are able to fly to do this. Jackin cannot ride on the dragons. No one can ride on a dragon because their scales are so sharp that it would shred the person riding them. So he has to walk. So it's the middle of the night, and he has made this split decision. I'm going to go after Jackie, or I'm going to go after Aki. So he does. He just starts walking away from the oasis, away from the. He just starts walking. He has nothing but the clothes on his back, and off he goes. So it felt very sudden that this was going to happen. Right. But I wrote here in my notes, even with these sudden plot developments, the story's good. The plot moves along quickly, never letting you get bored. I mean, even the political parts, you don't get bored. You might think in a young adult novel that politics is going to be boring, but it's not. It's well done. There's even some humor in it. Like the guy, I think his name was Mac, the guy who was leading the debates, funny. He had humorous moments, humorous talking points during the debate. It was nicely done. And Heart's Blood's offspring are still little heroes. I mean, they're only a year old, yet they are able to be little dragon heroes, and I appreciated that a lot. I do want to read for you guys a little bit out of the introduction, without spoiling stuff, out of the introduction, a little bit about this planet that we're on and these cool dragons, because this gives a little bit of a description of the dragons. They're just awesome. Ostar 4 is the 4th planet of a 7-planet rim system in the Erato galaxy. Once a Federation penal colony, marked KK29 on the convict map system, it is a semi-arid metal-poor world with 2 moons. Ostar 4 was originally chosen as a place to domicile convicts because of its difficult terrain and its daily cycle, which included a 4-hour period during the night with cold so severe humans could not remain outside without dying. Okay, so now let me tell you a little bit about the dragons. The planet hosts a variety of insect and pseudo-lizard life, the latter ranging from small rock runners to elephant-sized dragons. Unlike Earth reptilia, the Ostarian dragon lizards are warm-blooded, with pneumaticized bones for reduction of weight and a keeled sternum where the flight muscles are attached. Membranous wings with jointed ribs fold back along the animals' bodies when the dragons are earthbound. Stretched to their fullest, the wings of an adult dragon are twice its body size, enabling it to lift off the ground and fly above the mountains where the prevailing winds aid it in soaring. The wings have feathers, which are actually light scales that adjust to wind pressure. From claw to shoulder, some specimens of Ostarian dragons have been measured at 13 feet high. There is increasing evidence of a level 4+ intelligence and a color-coded telepathic communication among the largest beasts, though the recent embargo of the planet has effectively cut off all outside scientific study. That embargo comes into play in our story in some of these plot points that I'm not telling you about. I'm not going to spoil everything. Yeah, but the story moves at a pretty good clip. I mean, even when we have that Drac hunt, it went on for some pages. Okay, there was a lot going on with that Drac hunt, but it would just help with character development. Yeah. Okay, thumbs up for the 4th book in the Pit Dragon Chronicles. Thumbs up for cool dragons and communicating with dragons telepathically. I liked that a lot. You guys, I can highly recommend the 4th book, Dragon's Heart, in the Pit Dragon Chronicles. I hope that you will go back and watch the first 3 reviews in that Pit Dragon trilogy review that I did here like a year ago. I will put a link to that in the drop-down box below. I will put it at the end screen of this video if I remember. Yeah, I can highly recommend this. It was just nice. It was good to get to revisit the dragons. I have my worries and whatnot with Jaqen and his maturity level. I have my disappointments in Aki and the way she left, but the way the story came together, the way the plot points merged and melded and worked, the surprises and the things that worked out, the elements that came together, and those wonderful dragons, it all came together. It was nice. I recommend. Okay, you guys, thank you so much for tuning in.